Welcome to chess, ladies and gentlemen. Man, you know what? This is like the hula, right? You know, when you're like swimming or you're in like Hawaii or something. But I think that, Hikaru Nakamura, that's like a meme now. So that's probably his thing now. But anyways, man, I appreciate you guys very much for stopping by. So I did go ahead and go back and I grabbed one of the games between Wesley So and Fabiano Caruana. This is from round 11 from the U.S. Championship. So it is for all the marbles, the whole kit and caboodle. So as always, my people coming from the Philippines, I will say mabuhay to you. Kamusta na aking makaibigan. Masaya ko makinikang muli. Hello ulit. Let me see. Magandang umaga, magandang hapon if this is when you see the video. But man, if you guys are ready to go, let's take a look and see what we got for this game, homie. So we got the move D4. Of course, as you guys know, E4 and D4 are by far the most heavily played moves in the opening of a chess game. D4 is slightly less played than E4, but it kind of all goes with the same overall plan. Ideally, you'd like to get D4, E4 in the game. More when you play D4, it's more of like a C4, D4 thing, but you do want to control as much of the center as possible. So as a result of D4, you see a lot of the times, a majority of the time, the opponent will go knight to F6. It's usually either knight to F6. If they want to completely attack your idea of getting that, they'll either go knight to F6 or D5. And both of those moves do discourage this move, or you can see a Dutch also discouraging the move E4. Kind of depends on how black wants to play. So this is known as the Indian game to start off with. We got C4, we got A6, and then we do have the move knight to C3. Now this move is inviting the Nimzo-Indian, which is actually what we see in the game, bishop B4. But if we back up, we actually have an alternative way. There are some players, including myself, that really don't like having to deal with the Nimzo-Indian. So they actually go what is known as the anti-Nimzo, surprise, surprise. And we do see knight to F3. And this is just postponing the move and kind of seeing what black is going to do with this bishop. If they're just going to go bishop to E7 or if they want to go like a Bogo Indian situation. But you are just kind of getting out of that annoying pin. Sometimes people will go A3 and just it's all centered around trying to prevent bishop coming to B4. But like I said, we did see knight to C3. So Wesley So says, bro, I don't care about all that. You can do the Nimzo if you want to. So Fabiano says, my pleasure. And we do see the move queen to C2. And basically your idea with this, a lot of the times you just simply go E3. That is definitely the absolute main line. But sometimes white just says, hey, bro, I actually want to go E4 because that is one of the goals of playing literally just any game. But you do have a lot of development centered around trying to successfully push the move E4. Sometimes you see F3, E4, stuff like that. So, queen to C2 is just preventing the knight from coming down, and it is also supporting an E4 pawn push. So we do see castles by black, and then Wesley So does take the opportunity to go E4. And, I mean, black is basically looking at this gigantic wall of pawns that white has established, and you have to combat that some kind of way. You cannot allow white to just continue to grab space in the center. So we do see the move D5. We see the move E5. We got knight coming down to E4. And of course, this does not allow the queen to take. Before, if the knight just felt like it wanted to jump down to E4. Am I blurry? Come on, bro. Why am I blurry, dog? Come on. Let's go. Okay, that's better. Okay, sorry, guys. But yeah, before, obviously, without the move D5, knight to E4 would have been met with queen takes E4, so you don't want to do that. But we do see bishop to D3, forcing the issue a little bit. We do see C5. We got knight coming up to F3. We got pawn taking D4, knight taking D4. We got knight to D7. You don't have to say knight B to D7 since the other knight is not in a position to actually go to D7. So, as far as like notation purposes, that's something to remember. That is for when both knights can actually jump to the same square. You have to denote which one. Anyways, we do see bishop to F4. We got queen down to H4. Trying to tickle this, trying to tickle this pawn a little bit. Also, you kind of have a situation here where this knight is currently undefended. So the queen is kind of X-raying through a little bit of obviously it's first hitting this this bishop, but it is hoping that maybe after like a knight moves, you can kind of discover an attack on this knight, which sometimes people fall for. So we do see the move G3 just throwing all of that out the window. The queen does go back to H5. We see castles by white. And then we do see the super crazy, which is actually the best move in the position, is the move G5. And it's definitely not something, unless you know that is theory, it's not probably something that you would guess, simply because, I mean, you are completely crazily opening up your king's position, and that is generally not something that you want to do. But we have actually reached a point in the game after G5 that Wesley So plays a really, really interesting move. It is definitely theory, but I don't believe it's like the most obvious move that somebody would play. So if you want to pause the video and try to guess what move he plays here, go ahead and do so. Okay, cool. So I think a majority of people, I mean, bishop to e3 for sure, bishop to d2 for sure. I mean, those are obviously moves that you can make just to save your bishop if you really, really like your bishop. But one of the absolute best moves in the position, and what Wesley So did play here, is actually pawn takes d5. And it's crazy because almost the rest of the game is like Zweichenzug moves, just in between moves. They're not the most obvious moves, so you pretty much have to kind of know the theory for this position. But we do see pawn taking d5. Automatically, what this does is it does give your bishop, but you do get the knight back in exchange, because pawn taking d5 has undefended this knight on d4. So everything is really very forcing after this point. We do see knight taking c3, pawn taking e6. So like I said, this is going to be like an insanely like immortal type of Zweichenzug game, because all of these moves that are played, they're not the most obvious like first thought moves that you play. Pawn takes f4, pawn takes d7. We have pawn taking g3, and now this is where the Zweichenzugs kind of have to stop, because obviously I think you guys can see checkmate is on h2. So you absolutely can't just throw an in-between move in there now. You have to go one of the pawn takes g3. So we see h taking g3, and this does allow the bishop to actually take on d7. We see pawn taking c3, and then we see another Zweichenzug move, rook a to c8, just pinning that pawn down. So now you don't have the ability to take here. Oops, that's not what happens. You do not have the ability to take here, so that is holding that down. So you do see bishop to f5. You see bishop taking c3, bishop taking d7, bishop taking a1, bishop taking c8, bishop taking d4. And then you do see kind of a break from the Zweichenzug. You see bishop taking b7. Super logical move. You know, you are just getting, obviously, this bishop from the attack of this rook. You also have, you know, bishop, you know, you really have a lot of different options. You can go back here. You can go bishop to f5. But we do decide that, hey, man, we're going to grab some material. Black is going to be getting their material back, definitely. And the crazy thing about it, you guys are probably thinking like, wait, where's the novelty at? Exactly. We are not at the novelty yet as of now. It's crazy. We do see queen taking e5, getting the material back. We got king up to g2, getting on a light square, which is pretty beneficial because, you know, black does have a dark square bishop. So the dark squares are a little bit, you know, dangerous to be on. So for those of you that are playing and you see kind of moves where it's like king to h1, king to h2, king to g2, and they never really seem to make any sense. You're like, why am I just moving the king randomly for no reason? A lot of the times it is because the opponent has a certain colored bishop and you are just getting off of that color complex. So I'm glad I learned that because like I was just like anybody else. And I'm like, why am I going king to h1? Like, it just doesn't seem to make much sense. It just seems like it wastes a move. So that is why. You do see rook over to b8. Your rook goes over to b1. You see king coming down to g7. And then the novelty of the game, it is bishop to f3. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. You're just contesting the rooks on the open file, and you are just saving your bishop. We do see rook taking b1, queen taking b1. We got the move h6. You literally, because of the evenness of the position, you can really kind of play anything. There really isn't a whole lot of blenders for either side. You do see queen up to e4, encouraging a trade. Queen takes e4, bishop takes e4, and you guys guessed it. We have opposite color bishops with the same exact amount of pawns. So we see bishop back to b6, bishop to c2, bishop back there, bishop back there, bishop to b6, bishop back to c2, bishop back to d4, and then bishop to e4. And we do have a threefold repetition, and the players do agree to a draw, and that does allow Fabiano Caruana to maintain his lead, and he does win the U.S. Chess Championship for 2023. as you guys know, I mean, or may not know, you know, opposite color bishops, even same color bishops, those are very, very drawn types of end games. There really isn't too much of a way to kind of force a victory. There aren't a whole lot of really tactics. You kind of just have to avoid that color complex that your opponent's bishop is on. Even though you do have a little bit of damage for black structure, you really don't have any way to exploit it because basically black would have to do something like super dumb, like just throw their pawn away like this or leave this pawn here and then just kind of move their king away and then they'd be down a pawn. But even that is not absolutely going to be a win. So that is that game. Like I said, round 11. And this did seal the deal for Fabiano Caruana. So Malaka see Fabiano Caruana. Wesley So too, because I mean, it was a draw. So, but anyways, I appreciate you guys very much for stopping by, and I will see you guys next time.